Disclaimer, 4-star characters will have all their awakenings, 5-star characters only 2. That means I will also be discussing at what awakening they start to appear in this tier list for the 4-star and the 5-star characters. And at the end of the tier list, I will be adjusting the 5-star characters for the whales if you are actually paying for A6 or A4 or something like that. That being said, what up, I'm Faro TV, I do pretty much all of Mongil content. If you have any desire of a guide, video, ask questions, check my channel out. I have a lot of character guides, a lot of guides in regards to endgame modes, a lot of guides in regards to monster links. If there's something that is still not answered for you, leave it in the comments and I'll do a video. Now to the tier list. I added one specific tab, and that is best in slot but not S tier. That means they are simply the absolute best at what they do right now. However, it would be unfair to put them on the same level as, like, for example, Mina. That's why they're there. Let's go. And that immediately is for Benjamin. Benjamin, I wouldn't say is an S tier character, however, he's pretty much the best in slot in terms of lightning DPS, at least until you are able to get a Mabel on A4. But that is already whale content, and whales, well, I don't think whales really look at tier lists, they just swipe their wallet. And Benjamin is better than Mabel on A1 or A2 or even A3. Therefore, Benjamin best in slot but not S. And here we have this exact situation. Interesting enough, lightning and ice have the same problem. They have a lot of amazing main DPS characters. Now Angel is super interesting. Angel is absolutely amazing sub-fire DPS and also somewhat supportive. And for that reason, she is specifically amazing in clearing the rift. Like, if you play the Fire Rift and you put Angel in, you will be killing the normal spawn so easy with her E, while she also has very designated support skills and an ultimate that shreds boss enemies. Fantastic character. She is the best in what she does, which is a sub DPS / support for fire teams, which is why I'm actually putting her in the best in slot but not S category. And that should highlight for you, for the guys who haven't played every character yet, yeah, she's better than Flare at what she does. Now Bonnie is a pretty unique situation. There could be the argument made that a Bonnie is performing better than a Jiwon. I personally have a huge dislike for Jiwon. However, Esther is simply the main DPS character in the Wind team that is being used by everyone, and she is simply kind of requiring Jiwon to be in her team because of the infinite stamina buff, which is why Bonnie rarely sees play. You could actually, if you don't have Esther, if you don't have Nagi, you could try and main DPS with Bonnie, and she's just there because you don't have another option, which is why, even though I could consider her be better than Jiwon as like a straight up DPS, straight up wind support unit, Esther specifically kind of requires Jiwon B tier. There's not much to be said about Daisy. Tiny little earth buff because of her equipment. We don't need her. You don't need pure healers, you want your supports to also buff. Ellie, we have another best in slot but not S. We are yet to have a main DPS earth character that is in the S tier. Gabi is underperforming compared to Ellie. I don't know, maybe Gabi on A6 will outscale her, maybe on A4 already, but yeah, we're talking about A2 in this case. No one has Gabi on A4, or like most people don't. Ellie, however, A6 shreds. A4, A6 is what you want to go for, and then you have yourself a fantastic main DPS. She shreds Reginula, just like Benjamin. Get her. Esther, another situation of best in slot but not S. She is a fantastic ADPS, wind DPS unit. However, she needs kind of A1 or A2 even to really shred. I have her on A0 and she is not by a long shot as good as Benjamin or Ellie on A6. On A0, she just does not perform as you would want her to. Very mid on A4, on A0. But A2 is where this tier list goes. Get her to A2 and you have someone that's definitely best in slot and kicking some ass. Flare. Flare is simply not a great character. She does everything worse than Angel does. Her E skill is not as good as Angel's. Her ultimate is not as good as like putting DPS on an enemy. and she does not do the passive damage like Angel does. You don't need Flare, A1, A2, and that doesn't change with Higher Awakenings in my opinion. Angel's the way to go, Flare isn't, but if you have her, you can build her. She is not crap, she's just falling short. Francis, yes, the 4-star unit you get for free is the first S tier unit in this build, and that's already the case on A4. Even on A0 she could be an A unit. She is better than Flare on A0 than Flare is on A2, even though she's a 4-star. Yeah, that's the case. But A4, her attack buff gets used. A6, she gets an amazing debuff on the enemy. Everyone builds Francis, must build unit, fantastic 3rd unit in almost every team. Gabi is pretty much the same as Flare. She simply is not as good as Ellie. She is kind of cool. I enjoy doing like almost 2 million hits with her on Reginula, but she simply does not scale too well. Her auto attacks are too slow, too sluggish. A lot of her auto attacks don't even deal earth damage. B tier, but you can use her as a secondary character when Ellie is doing her little jumps on her own, sleeping next to the boss. So she can still be used, but I think with the next character release she will be probably completely irrelevant. Jiwon. Design wise, I really like her in terms of how she looks. However, her kit, I hate it. You jump in, you move yourself out of position, then you use your E skill, which is an AoE around her. You know, like you get away from the enemy, or like you blow them away and then you do damage around yourself. Like, who designed this? However, she is still a pretty good unit because of her buff. Her buff gives you infinite stamina, and infinite stamina is really good to have when you have Melody, and it is kind of a must-have when you play Esther. So I feel like I have to use Jiwon if I play Esther, and therefore she is still very much usable and is also edging out on Bonnie. However, she's generally not a good character. She just really is required for Esther. Otherwise, I would not touch her. Her weapon, on the other hand, would be SS tier. Her weapon, but you could put on any unit, honestly, and just don't dodge too much. Leeho, honestly, he is an alright character. You can main DPS with him if you happen to not get Verna, but Verna is, like, even Verna is better than him, honestly, like base Verna as a fire DPS. He's just being outclassed by everyone else, but he's not a daisy. You know, you can build him if you just happen to get 6 copies of him, but you don't have 3 copies of Verna or something like that. Hey, then he's your guy and you can play him, and upgrading characters is cheap anyway. Playable, just not good. Mina, A1, A2, I'm putting her on the S tier because there are several reasons. First of all, Mina is one of the units that is able to climb up to SS, I would say. She is insane on Higher Awakenings, but she's also already super fantastic on Lower Awakenings. She is a fighter, but I feel like she destroys and she ups the bar almost like destroyer characters. She is, in most of her rotation, invincible. Like, you jump around, enemies don't hit you. You don't need to use stamina to dodge because you jump around. She is one, or like, in my opinion, the best main DPS character. She might, in complete just raw DPS on low awakening, so like A1, be outclassed by Summer Verna. However, she comes with so many benefits in my opinion. She is, for me, her ultimate uptime is almost constantly. She's for me a S rank character, even on A2. And there we have it. SS character Narae. If you missed Narae, you can be salty about that. I am already salty because I only have her on A0. But A0 Narae could already be considered S tier. Not could. A0 Narae is absolutely, without a shade of a doubt, S tier. You might even consider her to be SS tier on A0. Yes, she's that good, and she gets even better on A2. A2 is something you really want, because then on top of all of her other buffs, she even gets an attack buff for everyone. Not only for ice characters, which she buffs into oblivion, she also buffs non-ice characters that are ranged characters, their E skill for 80%. If the character like Penny, she really is almost, she only shines with Narae, you could almost say, but almost every other character is also benefiting from the E. Even someone like Mina, where the E isn't really that important, but man, it's a big buff. She is the best unit in the game, hands down. Ophelia. Ophelia on A2 is on par, I guess, with A4 Cloud or A6 Cloud. I am having a real tough time to say who of the Ice DPS is the best in slot, and for that reason I'm putting them all in A. I think it is a little bit in regards to your playstyle or who you are having available as support units. How strong is your Narae? But in my opinion, the 3 Ice units are all really good, all A. However, Ophelia can rise a little bit higher when she is awakened by a whale. But for now, me personally, I don't want to make the decision of those 3. The reason being, every one of those 3 can be built. Ophelia, very good unit. Go ahead and build her. You will not regret building any of the Ice main units or main DPS units. Penny is an A tier unit, and in my opinion, she's A tier because of Narae existence. If Narae wouldn't exist, I would probably put her on B tier, but almost all of her damage is used by her E skill, and Narae buffs her E skill by 80%, so for that reason she really goes up there, but she's still not better than Benjamin on A6. A1 I feel like is a must. I find it, my Penny is A0. I find the coin system tedious without A1, but yeah, A1 is probably where you want to go to comfortably say she is an A tier unit. Reina is an interesting case because with Reina you can consider best in slot not as a side of Benjamin, but there is a caveat to that. So normally Reina does not perform on A6 as good as Benjamin, however she does perform as good as Penny with Narae. So she's an A unit. Yes, random lightnings like the lightning DPS are all good, as you can see here. There is one situation where you could consider Reina being as good as Benjamin, and that is if you have Mabel's weapon. Mabel's weapon triggers when you have neutralization buffs. Now, Reina's kit does not give her neutralization buffs. However, Reina's kit, there's a monster link, the Golden Fist dude, that she can use to trigger neutralization buffs, and then she benefits from the entire Mabel signature weapon, which is a very strong one, which would put her on the best in slot not as. However, since there is such a specific build required that not everyone has, and it also requires it requires investment that you on rolls for a weapon that you normally use on 5-star units, and therefore I leave her at A. But if you really like Reina and you don't want to play a dude or whatever, get Mabel's weapon. The video is coming out right now. Mabel's weapon is out, and shoot for Reina with Golden Fist dude. The long suffering of my wind team. I really dislike wind units in this game, and I don't think it's an entirely personal thing. I think Jiwon, I haven't seen people complain about Jiwon's positioning as much as I have, and I haven't seen people complaining about Esther as much because they don't have her on A0 like me, I guess. But I don't really like the gameplay. I feel like we're really pigeonholed into a specific build with having Esther with Jiwon. And Sangun has no place in general. Sangun's design, he's just putting out the damage he should. He should be putting out damage, but he just doesn't. And I wish they would buff him. I think he has such a presence in the story that should make him a much better unit. Come on, buff my guy, but right now I would not play him. I think like you could probably do more damage with Bonnie, who's a support unit. I don't know, man. He just doesn't work. And Sera is the other great of the 3 Ice units. They all 3 share a spot on this ranking, remember. She requires her A6 though, and she also requires Ophelia's weapon. However, Ophelia's weapon, everyone gets that for free. So that's not a situation like with Reina, because we all have Ophelia's weapon for free. And therefore, A6 Sera also an A tier unit, but not before A6. Next one, Verna. Normal Verna is pretty much the same situation like Leeho. I think she might be a bit better than Leeho. I have them both at A6, and Verna seems to be a bit more reliable to me. But they're both not characters you really want to play. You should have Mina or some Verna. But if you don't, yeah. But also then, if you have A6 Angel is also a better main DPS than either of those. Then I'd rather just buff Angel and play maybe Flare even as like a second fire unit. So the fire units suffer from the success of Angel and Mina and Summer Verna. Oh, the next S tier unit. You've seen the video maybe. Yes, I am calling Yeonwha an S tier unit, and that wasn't clickbait. She doesn't do much. You almost don't even have to switch onto her. All she does is wreck the defense. You don't even need A6, but you need A1. A0, don't even play her. Maybe you could play her, but A1, 25% defense rate is super good. The game is all about killing bosses, and bosses have a lot of defense, which holds back our damage by a lot. Her shredding it, she's also fantastic at triggering Gulgak and Aemon. A S tier unit, second in every lightning team. Whatever lightning team you have, you don't play Mabel and Benjamin or Benjamin and Reina. No, you play Benjamin and Yeonwha. You play Reina and Yeonwha. You play Mabel and Yeonwha. That's how it is. S tier and also, by the way, not only lightning. You can also use her in any team. She shreds the damage of other element bosses just as fine as she shreds the lightning bosses. Nagi, yeah, the wind team. Maybe it's a personal thing. Nagi is just not very good. Her bar destroying isn't as good as it should be for a destroyer character. Her DPS isn't as good as other characters. She's worse than Esther. Esther is the best in slot. Even A2 doesn't really save her or anything. B tier, you can play her, but I would never invest in her as she is a featured character that requires your resources. Skip. S Francis, the next S tier character. She is fantastic. She is an absolute bomb, a must best in slot in every Earth team. Every Earth team wants to run her for sure. And even if you don't have her on A2, on A0, she still outclasses an A1, 2, 3 normal Francis. But afterwards, in a lot of non-Earth teams, you might consider Francis instead of Summer Francis. However, this tier list includes her on A2, and A2 also gives another universal buff and also increases another universal buff on A1, the one for the melee characters. I guess it's not universal, but outside of the element melee buff. And yeah, she is an S tier character, fantastic. Third character in the squad. You pretty much always decide, should I play Francis or should I play Summer Francis in my third spot? Disclaimer for Summer Verna. Summer Verna has a problem with this tier list. I do not want to put her at A2 as Mina is, and I do not want her put her into best in slot because Mina is already there. But she's definitely on A1 already the best of the A team. And I think she almost, like, to make the tier list better, she should probably be positioned somewhere here in between those. But I don't think she belongs in the S tier. She gets into the A tier, even though A1 might perform better than Mina A1, but I think A2 Mina is already better again, and Mina just comes with like this beautiful dodge mechanic that will help everyone play this game. So yeah, best A character, debatable if you want to put her or Mina in this situation into S or not, but yeah, that's where we're at. And now Mabel on A2. On A2 she is still in the A tier. She only starts surpassing people in A4. She is really not a bad unit. Like on my new account that I started, I can get a super, like after 10 weeks or so, I was able to get like 730,000 on Reginula with her and Yeonwha. So it's pretty good, I think, for a few days of gameplay, but she simply is not as good as A6 lightning characters. Her with the Goldfish dude or him on A6. So yeah, she's still an A tier unit, but she's not bad. On A0, I might even put her on B tier, but A tier is, I think, a justifiable tier. Okay, now remember, this was all for the situation that the 5-star characters can only be A2. Now, if you think about whaling, now we will adjust the tier list for an A6 situation. As Francis gets a universal buff of 40% of attack, absolute beast. She's the next one like Narae on S rank. Esther, super hard DPS, S rank. Mina, S rank on A6. She is the best DPS unit in the game. Yes, the best one in the game. The second one that is as good as Mina is Mabel. Not as good, sorry. Though she does, the only other DPS I justify as SS rank on A6 is Mabel. Mabel is a gigantic difference in between having a free-to-play account or a whale account. So most people probably shouldn't summon her at all unless you want to swipe. If you swipe, consider getting her on A6. But if you're someone that saves for a character and then wants to go all out on A6, I would still... The only one I would only do that for right now would be Mina, in my opinion. Summer Verna, A6, very good S tier unit like Esther, but not like Mina or Mabel. Ophelia becomes the best in slot unit on A6. We cannot increase Cloud and Sera anymore. Ophelia, best in slot on A6. Jiwon does get a few nice buffs, so she jumps to A6. Penny, I will not put her in S. I'm sorry, Penny. You're still not it, I feel. And yeah, Nagi is also now on A. And I think on A6, Gabi will take Ellie's spot as the best in slot in what she does, but not S. That's where Gabi will be on A6. Flare, honestly, I'm sorry, but not much happens to Flare. And not much happens to Sangun. They stay where they are. Though honestly, I don't know about Sangun. I'll be honest, I don't know about Sangun. Take him at a grain of salt. I only have him on A1. I haven't seen anyone perform crazy with him on A6. Nothing went viral, but maybe no one has him on A6, and so no one could look if something... Maybe there's a bug, but even reading the description, I don't see it. All right, I hope you don't screenshot this out of context, because this is the whale tier list, where we swap around the 5-star characters. And before that is the probably more important tier list. Have fun with it. Let me know what you think. Let me know where you disagree. And I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.